The heck was that? Fans, report!
There seems to be a heavy source of foreshadowing coming from your DVD shelf.
I guess it's time to relieve myself of this curse. Time for me to repent. Greetings, geeks and girls. I'm the Joyful Jester, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave for another comic book movie review. Let's talk about fan casting. Anybody who knows me knows I love casting fictional characters that I like with actors I think would be good for the role. It's a tale as old as nerd time itself. Why do I bring this up to begin with? Well, there's one other person who likes fan casting themselves in famous roles, and that would be Nicolas Cage. Now, before you kill me, I don't hate Nicolas Cage. In fact, I think he's a damn good actor, and I actually really love a lot of his movies. There's one other thing you need to know about Nicolas Cage before we move on. He's a nerd. Like, he makes me look like Flash Thompson. He was cast in 2 major roles and got one of them. He had a Ghost Rider tattoo before he was in this movie. His son is named Kal-El, Superman's real alien name. I suppose I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's save that for the cons, and let's just get some backstory to this character. Johnny Blaze was always a hardcore guy who was just constantly trying to amaze people in a circus as a stuntman, always doing death-defying stunts that would just wow audiences, trying to follow in the footsteps of his father. Then his father was diagnosed with cancer. In a desperate attempt to save his father, Johnny made a deal with a demon named Mephisto. That's right, the guy who ruined Spider-Man comics for the foreseeable future. And won't stop rubbing it in our faces. Mephisto was true to his deal and removed the cancer from his father's body. But then he ended up dying in a crash anyways, so Mephisto had an idea. He ended up bonding Johnny with the spirit of vengeance known as Zatheros. And ever since then, Johnny has been cursed to walk the earth and hunt down the guilty as the Ghost Rider. And as you already know, Matt Murdock already stole the name he wanted. So, now that we got that backstory out of the way, let's look at the pros and see what this movie did manage to do right. Alright, let's go over the pros. Whenever Ghost Rider himself is actually on screen, the movie is just awesome. Nick Cage does do a decent job voicing him, and all the visuals and action scenes for him are really just top-notch. Just excellent, excellent, excellent. I also want to say it's interesting that Sam Elliott is in this movie, and this is the second time he's played a Marvel character. It seems like he's just made for these old country bumpkin mentor roles. Anyways. Now let's get on to the cons, and let's get the biggest one out of the way. The romance is just absolutely unneeded here. I mean, I don't buy these two's chemistry at all, and overall, it's mostly just them being idiots to each other. Like, there's this whole sequence where he's trying to tell her that he's Ghost Rider and she doesn't believe him or thinks he's crazy or thinks he's lying or whatever. But, dude, you were shooting flames out of your fingertips 5 minutes ago and tried to hide it from her before you told her. Prove it to you, you flaming-headed moron! And the villains. They're all just stock. Half of them feel like Care Bear villains. I mean, the major villain, Blackheart, honestly is the worst villain in Marvel history to me. He's diet villain from Blade at best, and the villain from Demon Knight at worst. And now, let's bring it home by talking about the Cage Man himself. I don't even necessarily blame Nicolas Cage for this. It just isn't the right casting. I mean, to me, this is just like casting Will Ferrell in Batman, or Brendan Fraser as Captain America. Look at Johnny here in this character picture, and then look at Cage in the poster. They are nothing alike, and you can tell they just slapped his face on here for marquee value. Like, I was hoping for someone like Ryan Henson or Taylor Kitsch, someone who can pull off the young, grizzled badass so much more, but I don't know. I don't even think Cage is the biggest issue with this movie. Overall, the romance is what bogs this movie down immensely. Whenever the writer isn't on screen and it's just Cage, it feels like just Bad Lieutenant on a budget. And the villains are just stock Care Bear villains, and they're not interesting. So whenever Nick is not Ghost Rider, this movie is just boring. It's just not interesting to watch. So for my ranking, I think I'm going to give this movie a 1 issue in the long box. It's just not worth your time. Outside of maybe a couple cool scenes with Ghost Rider, it's just not really that interesting to me. But till then, I'm the Joyful Jester, and what's going on?
Good evening, Jester. I take it you didn't like the movie.
Yeah, it wasn't a good movie. Probably one of the lowest rated movies I put on this list. Why?
What if I told you that I could make all of these movies better? In fact, I bet I can improve every single comic book movie ever made. For a price, of course.
Let me tell you something, you swollen turnip. I'm not some totally written comic book character who's easily gonna fall for your tricks. Or you can just gloat about Peter Parker some more, and if you go anywhere near him again, then I will dislocate your shoulder. And that's just a start.
Have it your way, Jester.